So we are 1 month into our homeschool year, and if you're interested to see how it's working out so far, stick around. So I'm recording this video on October 1st, which means that we have officially finished the month of September. We are 4 weeks in, about 1 month into our homeschool year, and I wanted to update you on how it's going, what is new about our homeschool, what's not working, what's working great, and what's just working. So probably the most significant new thing about our homeschool this year is that we are doing 2 co-ops. I did talk about our co-ops on Monday in several of my last videos where we would be doing nature study. Last year we did Story of the World, and this year we decided we wanted to do more of a science, and so we were going to be doing nature study. Well, another homeschooling family that decided to join up with us, we started talking towards the last month of the summer in August, talking about other things that we would just love to be able to do, and we just can't fit them into our homeschool. And we also realized that we both had very similar styles of homeschooling. We both really adopt the classical style of homeschooling. She's very much Charlotte Mason, and she's been the Charlotte Mason influence in our homeschool, and I'm beginning to lean a lot more towards the classical approach through Charlotte Mason. Well, we began talking about things and we said, you know what, first of all, she decided to join us on Mondays, and she thought, would we want to add anything more to our co-op than what we're already doing? And so she came up with some suggestions, and everyone in the co-op just loved it. And then we also said, but there's more things that we'd love to be able to accomplish in our homeschools, you know, all the enrichment studies, all the extras that we just don't have time for. But if we could get together and join together as a co-op, a few homeschooling families, we might be able to accomplish these activities. And so we started a second co-op on Fridays. So on Mondays, we are now doing Shakespeare, which she is leading, and I am leading nature studies. So Mondays are more of our academic, we call them co-ops, where we're studying Shakespeare. And on Fridays, we are doing enrichment, fun activities, things that we would love to do in our homeschools, but we just don't have time for. So Charlotte Mason talks a lot about handicrafts. So we are going to be doing handicrafts. We're going to be doing sports. We're going to be doing book clubs and poetry tea times and all of the things that we just kind of don't have time for in our homeschool, but they'd be great if we did. And so far this year, it is going so well. You may have some concerns with joining up in 2 co-ops, and I don't recommend it for everyone, but we really are collaborating well. All the moms are participating, they're helping out, they're putting in their time and their work and their effort. And so really, it's almost like showing up and just having excellent activities available for your kids. Another thing that is new to our homeschool this year, I haven't mentioned it in other videos, but this past summer I decided to start working again. I have been off from nursing for over 3 years, and this would be my final year that I would no longer be able to stay licensed as a nurse if I didn't practice nursing. And it also would be helpful to supplement our income. My husband works full-time and has been providing very well for our family, but it would be nice to be able to do some extras, traveling, vacation, even more things for our homeschool and not feel quite so much of a burden on my husband. And so I have begun working. In the summertime, I was picking up a couple of days a week only because we weren't in a full swing for homeschool. But now that we are starting homeschool again, I have only started working once a week. Now that has been a bit of a stretch for us. one day a week because I put in so much of my time into our homeschool plans, in lesson planning and preparing, and just doing activities. I mean, we are kind of 7 days a week homeschooling kind of family and doing nature hikes and activities and board games and things. And my children have been used to me being home with them 24/7. And so one day a week has actually been a big change for all of us. It is going well. I am happy to be practicing as a nurse again, but at the same time, it takes a lot of preparation for those days that I won't be here. So occasionally I will pick up a shift during the school week. And when I do that, I don't really want my kids to fall out of the practice of not doing school. So I lesson plan for that day. I make them both checklists and have some independent work that they both can get through on their own without me being there. And then for my 5-year-old, some of the things my older daughter, who's 9, will help her through, like sitting and listening to her read a story, or sitting there and just making sure she's not struggling to do her math. Things like that. So I come up with a checklist of things for them to do. So that is new for us. So far, it is going, I would say, okay, but we are going to get through in it. We are going to get used to this new change to our homeschool. This is one of the things that I picked up that's sort of helping us out while I'm at work. It's something that Olivia can do completely independently. It's called Reading Detective, and this one is for grades 3 to 4. And they are reading comprehension passages and questions to help them think through a little more deeply about understanding literature and reading. There's fiction and nonfiction in the books, and they're really kind of preparatory for SATs. The SAT type questions that can be quite challenging, where there are several good answers, but they walk them through which one is the best answer. And so far she's doing well with it. She likes it, and it gives her something a little different to work on when mommy is at work. Another thing that I've added to our homeschool this year, I've done it in the past and I really loved it. We've all loved it, but I just didn't feel like we would have time for it this year. Well, I decided to make time for it, and we are doing artist and composer studies. So we have been alternating every other week with an artist and a composer, and then an artist and a composer. And this past month for September, we have been studying Claude Monet for the artist and Claude Debussy for the composer. And we've really been loving learning about them, studying their work, and then imitating their work in the art. And in the music, when we listen to the music several times, we then depict how that piece of music makes us feel through a piece of art. And we have really been getting a lot out of it. I've been enjoying sharing some of my favorite paintings and music with my children and seeing how they are really loving them as well. And so it has been an excellent add, and we're going to continue doing this throughout the school year. I've made a list, and we're going to be cycling through several different artists and composers. We'll stick with one for about 6 weeks at a time and then move on to a new one. So now let's get to what's not working. Oh, I hate when things don't work, but at the same time, it's really good to be able to let it go. And it just brings more peace and harmony in your homeschool when you're able to let go of the things that aren't working. It's good for us moms to learn to be flexible, to be able to do that. And it also teaches kids that it's okay sometimes to let things go. You know, my oldest daughter is a perfectionist, and she strives to try to achieve, you know, the top marks and best in everything, but sometimes it's okay to let some things go. So for us, piano is not going well. It's either that they're not maybe interested in learning piano, or that they're not old enough, not ready yet. So we started off the first week. I taught the first lesson, but I am one that I'm not going to nag my children to practice piano. When I was growing up, I loved playing the piano, and I didn't need to be told to practice. And so it was something that I was passionate about, and I just did. Yet my brother, who also took piano, he was always nagged and told to practice, and he just didn't learn. And I don't want to nag my children to practice. If it's not something that they're interested in, why are we going to waste our time doing it? There are many other things that they can learn. It doesn't have to be piano, and it may not even be an instrument. So we have let it go. We did try it out for another week or two. I didn't teach any more lessons. I was just getting them to practice what I had already taught them in the first week, and it fizzled out and it became just disinterest and wanting to have more free time to play, because we are taking on a lot in our homeschool this year. So we have let it go. We may pick it up again if there's a desire to learn it. For now, we'll just let it go. Another one that is a bit surprising to me, because it's been my favorite subject that is not going well this year, is our history. So we're doing Story of the World, and I do love Story of the World, and we're still loving it. We did ancient times back when my daughter was in grade 1, I believe. And then when she was in grade 2, we did the Middle Ages. And then last year in grade 3, we went back to ancient times because we did it in our co-op, and I wanted to start at the beginning for all the students. And so this year, instead of skipping over Middle Ages and just jumping to pre-modern history, we're doing Middle Ages again. So it's feeling a bit repetitive, although we are enjoying reading the stories again. We just aren't doing all the extra activities. We did all of the learning activities in the activity guide. We did all the map work. I don't even have maps like anymore because we used the ones that were in our book. I hadn't made photocopies that year. I was just tearing all the activity pages out and map pages out and doing them on the hard copy. So we didn't have that to work on this year. So for history, we're just reading the read aloud. And then we're going to, I do have a big world map on the wall, and we're going onto the world map and identifying the area that we're talking about. And that's it. But what I've sort of discovered as I've been diving into Charlotte Mason is that my role as a homeschooling mom is not to make sure that I have taught them every fact throughout history. In fact, that would be impossible. Even historians specialize in one particular era and don't know all of history. And so it's not my job to make sure that they have all the facts memorized, all the dates memorized, and can rhyme off anything that they're asked, as opposed to learning to love history. And when they want to know more about a particular era or people group or place, they will learn how to do the research and look up those facts for themselves. So I have found that I have been growing a love for history, and a lot of these stories are beginning to stick. In fact, I was reading another read aloud storybook, not story, but it's a read aloud book during our read aloud time in the mornings, and it's called The Stories of Roman History, something like that. Anyways, the first chapter was all about Romulus and I can't even think of the name now, but where Rome got its beginnings, its history. And I started to read the story. It's gonna kill me now that I can't think of the name. I'll come back and I'll put their names up here. That Olivia, before I even started to say their names or anything, she immediately said, "This is the story of Romulus," and she knew it. Remus and Romulus, and she knew immediately what the story was. She remembered it, she recalled it. And so that's what I love about Story of the World. It's done in a storytelling kind of a way, and the stories really stick. And so we are going through the Middle Ages again. We're taking our time reading the read alouds and having some discussions on them. I am getting them to do some narrations and draw some pictures about the things that they've learned. And that's it. I don't necessarily think that we have to dive deeper into it. We have done all of those extra activities. In fact, I still have them all stored in boxes, and there's really no need to do them all over again just to check off a box. And my kids are learning to love history. So what is going great? Well, we didn't do really any extracurricular activities last homeschool year. And again, I was really hesitant to add more to it because I felt like we didn't have time or room to do anything extra. But this year we are doing swimming lessons and dance lessons, and they are both going great. I was able to get Olivia into private swimming lessons. She is loving it. She's excited. She is finally at the point where I think she's ready to learn how to swim. She's had a bit of a timidness over water, and she's getting over that and excited to go. She just picked out a brand new bathing suit because she's been outgrowing all the rest, and we're really excited about swimming lessons. Eliana as well is in a small group of 4 students, and she is excited, and they're both loving swimming lessons. Olivia's swimming lessons are on Monday nights and Eliana's are on Tuesday nights. And then we started them in a homeschool group dance class. There was a dance studio in a town close to us that does competitive dancing, but most of their classes are offered only in the evenings because they're meant for public school children. Well, she decided to open up a class for homeschool kids during the day. So on Wednesday mornings, we go there, and she's doing an introduction to all forms of dance. So that each week they're going to cover a different style of dancing. And then if there is one that my children really love, we may consider putting them into further dance classes. But they're having a lot of fun with it. It's a great form of exercise and just a new skill to learn and kind of explore all of the things that there are out there to learn and know about. And so those are going great this year. And I'm happy to say that we are doing the extracurricular activities and we're managing it. I know it's the beginning of the year and there is still room for burnout, but we are loving it. They're energized by it. And so that keeps me happy knowing that my kids are thriving and loving it and doing well. The other thing that is going great, and I'm almost going to say I was surprised, not because I didn't think it's a great subject to learn, but because I wondered if our kids were too young for it. But now this is going to be backwards again, but this is A Midsummer Night's Dream. This is the Shakespeare play that we are studying this term, and next term we're going to be studying A Merchant in Venice, or The Merchant in Venice. Anyway, it is going really well. I'm really happy with how it's being taught. I'm loving that I'm able to step back and just observe and not prepare, but the mom that is preparing this is doing an excellent job teaching it. She's really incorporating a lot of different ways to get for them to interact with the play, to act the parts out, to draw, to narrate, to do different kinds of things like that. And they're beginning to at first I thought, well, what's the point of them learning it if they're not going to understand this old English? But they are slowly understanding the purpose of the story, what the main point of the story is, and it's teaching them to understand a different type, an old literature, an old English, and see where much of our books and plays and movies all come from. They really are imitations of Shakespeare's original work. And they are getting it and they're having fun with it. And I'm really so happy, but I didn't even plan on doing Shakespeare this year. It was really a last minute idea. And I think it's excellent. And we're going to continue doing this. I think we might keep doing this from year to year. I didn't get a lot of Shakespeare. I didn't really see the point until now. And I'm really happy that we decided to do this. Another thing that is going great this year is how much we are able to get out with other families and other kids. My children are just building friendships, and that is what they have been lacking in, because when we started homeschooling before the pandemic, but then the pandemic came and it really seemed like years before they were really able to connect with other children. At first, even they were connecting with other children with masks and limited outings and things like that, but now we're just fully out doing all the things with all of their friends. So we are with friends on Mondays from 1 until about 3:30. They are seeing their friends in their swimming lessons. They are seeing kids on Wednesday mornings for dance. And on Fridays, we do co-op from 10 until about 12:30. And then we have an afternoon meetup with other homeschooling families where it's just playtime. So the whole entire day on Friday is with other families and homeschoolers. My kids are loving it. They look so forward to these get-togethers, and it's just what makes their day. And we can't change that, can we, moms? I mean, we might want to hope that they'll love the history and the math and the language arts and the literature, but really kids just love to be around other children. And so I'm just happy that I'm able to give that to them. And so far, Olivia has said, this is the best homeschool year ever. And that just makes my heart melt and makes me happy. And so this has been a wonderful addition to our homeschool this year. Now, another really great, and I guess the final point I want to make that's really great about our homeschool this year is how much we are able to read. We have read a lot. In this past month of September, we have read Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. We have read Mrs. Pigglewiggle by Betty MacDonald, and we have read Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson. And you're probably wondering, how did you read all of that? And in addition, we are reading other things. Right now, we've just started The Hobbit, and Olivia is reading Little House in the Big Woods. She also finished another book by James Patterson. I can't think of the name of the title. How are we able to read all of these books in 1 month? Well, we are reading the physical book in our morning read aloud time, but we are also doing car books, which my friend said, aren't you doing car books when we're driving? Because our co-op is actually about a half an hour away and then another half an hour back. That's an hour's drive. And, we travel a lot because of all of our extracurricular activities. And she said, you should be doing car books. So we started doing that. And that's how we got in Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Treasure Island. And we have another book set up for our trip to Co-op tomorrow. But it has been amazing, and we're getting so many books in, and we are just loving it. And it's been a really, I don't know why we never thought of it before, but such a more useful and fun car ride. And then finally, what is working? Well, there's not a whole lot to say. Everything else that I haven't mentioned is working. Nothing is like superbly wonderful, but everything is just working, and that is a good thing. It's not going poorly, it's not being fantastic. One thing that is just working, but we are getting through, is I introduced that we would be doing habit training by laying down the rails. It's a Simply Charlotte Mason curriculum for training your children in different types of characters and habits. So we have been doing obedience for the month of September. And I can't say that it's slow going, but I can't say that it's going poorly. It's going well. I think if I were to expect for them to do 100% exactly what they were supposed to do all of the time, I think that would not be the bar that I should be measuring. They are improving, they are remembering, they are doing the things that they weren't doing before, and they are creating new habits. So I would say that it is going well. And we're going to keep pushing through, because that habit training, I think, is always going to be a slow growth. But to not do it would just be wrong, I think. To just say, it's too hard, let's just not. But because our children do need to learn good habits, we need to learn good habits. And by doing this, we will slowly over time develop some good habits. Reading is also working for us. I find, because we are doing so much, I have to kind of set a time for independent reading. So read alouds, it's wonderful, but independent reading, I have to say, okay, you cannot do this such and such a thing until you finish your independent reading. I'm going to set the timer on the stove for 30 minutes. She's doing 30 minutes a day. And then when that dings, you're all done. And so that is how we're getting through it. It is working. It's not that she's so excitedly saying, actually, I shouldn't say that. Assigned reading is working that way. She does love to read, and she is reading a lot. Other books, her own picks, I kind of go through her picks from the library and things like that, but her own choices, she does love to just sit and read. She reads before bed, she'll read any time of the day. She does love to read, but it's just the assigned reading where I just have to say, okay, this has to be done. Here's the timer, sit and do it now. And that's how we're getting through it. But, and the last thing I wanted to show you was, so I have revised this year's schedule so many times, and I know I showed you one, and that one has totally changed. I think I've revised this 3 or 4 times since the school year started, realizing things weren't quite working out. So you can see here on Mondays, we do read alouds every morning, and I do try to squeeze in some math, but really the rest of the day is preparing to leave for co-op, and then we have co-op all afternoon. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays are really our only days that we do a full day of school. Fridays, we really don't even have time for read alouds now on Fridays, because we go early to set up. We're there at 10:30 in the morning. It's about a 35-minute drive away. So I find just loading up the car, getting the lunches, everything made into the car, kids in the car, we don't really have time for school. So after school, so Fridays is really just our completely social day. Well, of course, we're learning as well in co-op, but it's just with our other friends. So Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays are the days where we are doing all the rest. I have changed around exactly how we're doing the subjects as well. I forget exactly how I've described it in the past. I was trying to rotate different types of learning so that the brain was always being stimulated and not getting overtired. But what I found that works best in terms of juggling between my two students is that while one is working on math, because they do math fairly independently, the other will be doing language arts with mom. And then when the other one is doing language arts, the other one will do math. And so we just alternate the math and language arts. Otherwise, pretty much all of our other subjects we are doing joint as a family. And so that's the schedule there. Not a whole lot to say about it. We've just squeezed in different periods where they will be working on projects and assignments and things like that. They are getting some Shakespeare assignments from the Monday Co-op and nature study assignments, and they're working on a nature study special project for term 1, and they'll have a second one for term 2. So I make time for that in our schedule. So that's all I have for you. I hope that you found it interesting. If you like videos like this, please give it a thumbs up, comment below. I can put out more updates about our homeschool in the future, maybe once a month or every quarter. But I thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.